world's most amazing people. And I'm so excited to tell you about my new book, Simply Amazing. You'll hear the story of what I've been up to the last few years, but more important, you'll hear from 10 amazing people who will inspire you with the strength of the human spirit. People who go through challenges and come out on the other side only better. Nothing amazing about me. What's amazing is that I get to talk to amazing people. All in the book, Simply Amazing. Simply Amazing. The first book from WMAP and your author, yours truly, Casey Armstrong.
I'm working on a dream.
That's true, guys. Hey, what's going on? Welcome. WMAP Radio. World's most amazing people. Thank you, Bruce. He's working on a dream. Guys, I got a great guest coming up, and I have one of the lead authors in our next book here at WMAP called Simply Amazing Women. And her name is Lola Scarborough. Now, Lola has an amazing story, guys. First of all, she's an author. She is a health and wellness expert. She's a yoga instructor. And her website is yogalola.com and lolascarborough.com. Today, I want to talk to her about how the story starts is so interesting because she started with nothing. She came from the South with an accent, and there wasn't a lot of help around, poverty. And first of all, before I get there, I want to bring on Lola Scarborough. Lola, are you there?
I am, Casey.
Hey.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, I wanted to start with going back here to your childhood. But before I do that, the name of the book that you have out right now, people can buy, is Fighting for Our Tits. And I normally don't say that word, but I've decided that I don't think it's one of those things that we can't say because we're not saying it in a way of objectifying anything. Have you gotten flack over this title?
I've gotten a little bit when I've done some advertising with it. Mostly the people who seem to be distressed by it are women who have already gone through mastectomies and breast cancer, and it's not really even the word tits that's offensive to them. It's the idea that I'm saying that there are some natural and holistic things that you can do to support your breast health and maybe help avoid cancer. And they call what I write in there woo-woo, even though they've never read it. So it's more a pushback against the stance of approaching it through health and fitness rather than through Western medical intervention.
Gotcha. And as always, most people who complain are the ones that don't read it.
Yeah, no, not a single one of them has read it. I offered to send each one of them a book, and no.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great, Lola, just to make judgment on something that we don't know anything about? Just I already know about that. Wouldn't that be great? Life would be easy, right?
Yeah, it would be easy.
Well, Lola, tell me about your book. Tell me about the one that we're talking about, Fighting for Our Tits.
The book has a very holistic approach, and really anyone could read it and benefit from it. Although some of the techniques I mentioned are specific to the breast, most of the book is about mitigating factors that could contribute to getting cancer of any kind, including breast cancer. Those things include drinking fluorinated water, which is a culprit in many different kinds of diseases, as well as, taking good care of yourself, exercising, having a good emotional attitude towards life, having support and social system, being in community, doing seva, doing service for other people. They have shown that, helping someone really gives your immune system a boost. I mean, there are all kinds of studies about it. And then I have a particular chapter where I go through just all different kinds of alternative and complementary methods for making your health as radiant as you can make it, making yourself as strong as you can make yourself. And they're all based on things that you can do. The whole idea of the book is to put the power of your health back into your hands and to encourage you to see that you are an instrument in your own wellness. And people do get diseases, and they've lived very healthy lives, and they've done everything right. So it's not a condemnation of saying, oh, well, if you just did this and this and this, you wouldn't be sick, because that's not true. Sickness happens. It's part of being in life. But what it is it's about mitigating factors that you can mitigate that will help contribute to you having a full and healthy life, and, not going to God one body part at a time.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Guys, I'm speaking with Lola Scarborough. She is a lead author in our next book called Simply Amazing Women. And one thing I got to tell you, Lola, I don't know if we let you know yet, but in April, I think in May, we're re-releasing Simply Amazing, our first book. And we give a little snippet on some of the people that will be in Simply Amazing Women. So when Simply Amazing comes out again in May, we'll get to know a little bit about Lola and kind of tease her story. So when it comes out, we're looking at, November, December of next year. People will already know. So that's pretty cool, huh?
Yes, I'm so excited to be a part of this grand adventure.
Yeah, no, it's going to be cool. So Lola, let me take you back now. Now, your story starts where? Down south where?
Well, I was born in Miami, Florida, and my story starts before I was ever born, if you want me to take it back.
Please, I do, yes.
Okay. My mother got married at 15.
15, you said?
She was 15 years old.
Oh, my God.
She got married, and she married a man that was in the Navy. Well, he shipped off to Alaska, and that's when she met my dad, and she got pregnant with me. But he was in love with another girl, and he was 17. So his mom took him out of town. So I didn't meet him until I was 29 years old. But the man that my mother was married to, his last name was Scarborough, which is where I got my name from, came home on leave. My mother was already pregnant. And then he and two other Navy boys were accused of raping a co-ed. And so he got sent to prison. So his name is the one that I have, and my sister, who's no longer with us, she had it as well, which is Scarborough. So once I was born, my family moved from the Houston area, which is where I was conceived, and they went to Miami, which is where I was born. But she would bring me back up here to visit Gene, the man whose name I bear, in prison, and she said that I loved all the inmates and the inmates loved me. And I've always been really interested in criminal reform, and I thought for a long time about being an attorney or going into the criminal systems in the prisons. And once my mother told me that she used to take me up there to see Gene, I thought, so that's where that very interesting aspect of who I am comes from. Of course, I also grew up with a lot of what I guess people would call criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I love your honesty.
There's people who make bad decisions.
Right. Right. A lot of us do. Don't make us bad people.
So anyhow, going back to my birth moment, I was born to my mother December 21st, 1959, and at the time they were giving women that drug that completely erases their memory of childbirth. I can't remember the Twilight drug.
Not thalidomide, not that, right?
No, this completely erased the memory of childbirth. So
I don't know about this. Tell me about this.
Yeah, I have the name of the drug in my book, and right now I'm kind of going blank.
Hey, Autumn, can you grab me her book, please? Thanks. Sorry.
It's right there in the first chapter.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tell me about what this was, because I never heard about this, and let me hear about that.
Well, they gave this to women for quite a while in the United States, and the idea of it was that it knocked out a woman's memory of childbirth. It was the theory behind it was they were using it to create painless childbirth. And they had used it over in Europe, but they used it differently. And so the way it was administered in the U.S. was, it was a crime against women and their babies. But so she didn't remember having me, and again, she was only 15. And so they presented me to her, and she said, "No, take her away. She's not my baby. I haven't had a baby." She refused to believe. Yeah, so they finally convinced her, so she took me home and tied some booties on my feet. And after a little while, I wouldn't stop crying, and so they finally took me to the doctor. Well, she had tied the booties so tight, because remember, she's a kid herself.
She was 17, right?
Yeah, she was 16 at the time.
Oh, 16, okay.
Yeah, she was 16. So she had tied a booty so tight that it had cut through all of the flesh in my leg, and I almost lost my foot. I didn't, but I have a nice big scar to remind me every time I look down and I see my toes to be very, 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 very grateful. So moving from there, she got pregnant again with another child, and that was my sister Barbara, who, like I said, is no longer with us. And Barbara got the name Scarborough, and then soon afterwards, she divorced Gene. The second man she married was a man who had hatcheted his wife and her lover to pieces in the bed.
Oh my God! All right, go back, Lola. I mean, we have a whole book, and it's you're not even one yet. So so slow down. Now tell me about, first of all, let's go back to your sister. Tell me about your sister.
My sister's name was Barbara, and she was murdered about, I guess it was almost 25 years ago. And that's a long, torrid, horrible story, too, and it revolves around my family. But she was hitchhiking to see her boyfriend, who my mother and brother had stabbed in a fight. And on the way back, she never came home. And we found her body. It took almost 12 years to find her body, because the police weren't really motivated to look for her. You know, my family had a really interesting reputation in the area that we came from. We were we were considered to be what is often called poor white trash. And my family was real reactive. They'd had shootouts with the police, all kinds of stuff.
Was this in Miami or was this in Houston?
No, we were living on a farm then. We moved from Miami. My mother married 4 times. And the last time she married, we moved to the country. And that's when we got really, 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 really poor. And things got really hard. I was 10 then when we moved to Georgia.
Okay. And where did you get the accent that you'd have when later you go to school and listen to these tapes and record yourself so you could listen back and get rid of that accent because people look down on you?
Well, we moved there when I was 10, and anytime I head back to that area, I immediately drop back into the language. Yeah. But so we were on the Florida-Alabama line when we first moved, and then we later moved to Georgia. But, there the language was, people said taint, ought to, hadna, fixin' to, and I had a very deep, deep Southern accent. I got a scholarship, and I went to the Atlanta College of Medical, Dental, and Business when I was 17. And I had a teacher. She was my English and my business law teacher. She was listening to me, and she looked at me, and we were in the classroom, and she said, Lola, you're smart. She said, but no one's going to hire you with an accent like that. You have got to get rid of it. You sound like a hick from the sticks, which, of course, is exactly what I was. So she gave me a tape recorder, and she said, listen, just record yourself. And so I would listen to myself in regular conversation. I'd just talk to myself. And then I found all those places where I was having all of the challenges with grammar and speaking like I was educated. You know, there are so many barriers to entry when you're poor and you come from an uneducated family. And, you know, it's not really a matter of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps a lot of times. It's about re-socializing yourself and learning how to speak, how to even present yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have the best I mean, you said that the level of education, the highest in what you grew up around was 7th grade. And you said that you didn't even have the money for school supplies. I mean, so the help just wasn't there.
It wasn't there, and I was blind as a bat to boot, so I could never see the blackboard or anything. But I was the first person in my family to ever graduate high school. I am the only person to have a higher degree. Incredible. So after me, a couple of my brothers and sisters graduated from high school. I was really proud of them. And a few of them have done some college classes. But that one teacher kind of, it sounds kind of abrasive, but that one teacher kind of took you under their wing, and you know, even though they might have been rude about it, but they made you kind of do the hard work that got you to the rest of your journey. Right, because I didn't even realize that I was speaking differently than other people.
Right.
I mean, I didn't. And it's like they say, you know, a fish doesn't know he's in water, right?
Wow.
No, she helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Lola, let me go back. You threw a lot at us just a couple minutes ago, and through the miracle of editing, we can when we put this book together, we'll put it in chronological order. But so take me back when you go from Houston, you go to Miami, okay?
Yes, my family moved from Houston because they were receiving threats. It was a time of high racial tension, of course. I mean, it was like 1958, 1959. And the boys had gone over to Texas Southern College, and that's where the incident took place. So they were 3 Caucasian males, and they were accused of having forcibly raped a black woman at the college. And
at Texas Southern, that's where Michael Strahan went, and it's part of the SWAC conference. Football, I know football-wise, because we used to play some schools around there. But you're talking about your birth father, the one that got your mother pregnant at 16. We're talking about who was in the Navy, right?
No, that's the man that my mother was married to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm mixing it up.
That's all right. It's a confusing story. It took me a while to
We'll get it.
out.
We got guys. If you guys are on the edge of your seat just like I am, we got like 6 to 8 interviews with Lola, so we'll get it straight. This is all why she's going to be in this book, and it's going to be amazing. Her story is just something you guys won't believe. So okay, so let's go back again. So this incident that occurred, it was start again. Tell me about that again.
Okay. So Gene was the man that my mother was married to, and whose last name I carry and my sister carries.
Okay.
Carried. And he is the one who went to prison. He was the one that was in the Navy. My natural father was not married to my mother at the time. My mother met my natural father while Gene was in Alaska.
Got it.
Okay. So, but Gene is the one that went to prison. He and the other 2 boys also went to prison.
Did you know anything about it, Lola? Did you know anything about? I mean, I know you were too young, but later, what was your feeling about what really happened? Do you think that occurred? Do you have any research, or what do you think?
Well, no, it definitely happened. I mean, my grandmother is the one who told me about it when I was a little bit older.
Okay.
And the way I found out about it was my mother was married to her 3rd husband, And my aunt, who is a reformed heroin addict that I lived with on and off throughout my life, told me that Barbara was not my real sister. And that was the first thing I'd heard about that. And then I asked my mother about it, and she told me some of the story. And then later, when I got older, I asked my grandmother about it, and she finished filling in all of the details.
Wow.
But they left Houston. They had to move because the racial tensions at the time were so high, and they were getting death threats. So they picked up and they moved to Florida because my family originally comes from Florida, so they moved back there.
Okay.
And then my mother would sometimes bring me up to visit Gene in prison.
And that's you liked actually going to see Gene up there, and you knew the other cellmates that he was with, and that you knew them.
Well, I was a little girl. I think my mother finally divorced Gene when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So, and he was still in prison.
Okay, and he was still in prison, and did you ever hear from him again?
No, never heard from him again. My mother heard that he'd gotten out and that he had tried to find work and couldn't. And the story was, and nobody really knows for sure, but the story was that he held up a convenience store and he went back in. Because he and the other two guys, they were really young. They were 19 when they went in. And a lot of times, anyone who's studied criminal behavior, you understand that when they've been in for a long time and they've gone in so young, it's sometimes really hard for them to adjust to the outside world. And, back then it was even harder to find work if you had any kind of a prison record. So,
Right, I got it. So now this takes you. Does your mom get back with the guy that she met while Gene was away?
No. In fact, his name was Norman, and he's my natural father.
Okay.
Norman's mother shipped him out of the country.
Oh, my God. Tell me why.
Because my mother was pregnant. That's why.
I see.
And my mother didn't take anything laying down. She would blow it up, even at 15. And so Norman's mother, because Norman was in love with another girl anyway, who he married later on, but he was 19 also. So, but yeah, his mother shipped him out of town, and I never saw him, heard from him, even saw a picture of him until I was 29 years old.
Wow.
And then I knew where he was. I mean, he's here in Brenham, Texas. And so one day when I decided, well, I'm probably going to have kids sometime soon, I better check him out, because he has, on one of his hands, he's only got 2 fingers, because his mother was given that drug that created the birth defects. But my mother wasn't sure if it was the drug that did it or if it was something genetic. So I wrote him a letter and said, I'd like to meet you just to make sure that I understand what happened to your hand and if it can be passed on. And so he met me, and we have a courteous but cool relationship. I mean, I don't hang out with him or anything, but
right.
I've seen him a couple times, and he's met my children, and he's an alcoholic too. So that was the first thing I said to him. I said, "Oh, please, 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 don't be an alcoholic too." And he was.
Oh my God, Lola, guys, if you are so interested as I am in this story, this is Lola Scarborough, and she's the author of Fighting for Our Tits, and you can get that at yogalola.com or lolascarborough.com. She is a health and wellness expert. She's a yoga instructor and, of course, a very well-known author, and she will be in the book Simply Amazing Women that's coming out, our next book from WMAP. Lola, we have to stop right here for this week, and I know the audience is mad at me, but hey, that's okay. She'll be back. So what an amazing story. And before we go now, when we talk next, we'll pick up from where we left off. But the one thing that I got so far is, how do you find a relationship with a man when it doesn't seem like there was a very steady male figure in your life growing up?
It took me a while. My grandfather was around quite a bit, but he just didn't take to me. My grandmother adored me, and I think some of it might have been jealousy. And he was never, seriously unkind. But it took a while to kind of move from the idea of a man that was violent, alcoholic, abusive. I'm on my third marriage. A third time's a charm, right?
Right, yeah.
So, I've learned a lot. And, of course, what I did was I repeated patterns from my past in all of my relationships, because that's the only way you can learn.
Right.
But when you come out on the other side of it with clarity, you realize that men are beautiful and women are beautiful, and that both genders can't be judged on the basis of what their gender is. Each person is unique, even though, as genders we share characteristics across the board. So it's been through really learning to see people as people rather than seeing people as gendered, that has helped me find a stable and steady relationship with my husband of I'm going on 15 years now.
Wow.
I always say I'm a serial monogamist.
Wow, Lola, you're amazing, and I'm so glad that you're going to be part of this book and you're part of the station. Guys, check out Lola Scarborough. Go to yogalola.com and lolascarborough.com. The new book, Fighting for Her Tits, is available on those websites, and I'm sure Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can get it there, too. So until next week, Lola, thank you so much, and your story is riveting, and I'm so glad you're a part of this.
Thank you so much, Casey. We'll talk soon.
You got it. See you later.